This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, today we have Gregory Brown. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on. We were just kind of chatting a little bit. Your story is very, very interesting from the very beginning. Tell us about it. Tell us, how did this world start for you?
So, world started for me in Sacramento, California. I'd say it was a little rough. So, my parents didn't have the strongest marriage, so there was a lot of battles, and I'd say my mom and my dad both struggled with mental health issues, or maybe issues adapting into the world, or stuff they had to work through that maybe they didn't work through. So I was thrown into a life of kind of immediate adversity. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd say, growing up from newborn to 8 years old was kind of a chunk of my life. And the chunk ended with being taken, put in group homes, foster care for the remainder of my childhood, young adult or youth. So that's the nutshell version.
So do you go with that story a little bit? Are you in contact with your parents still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you remember being taken?
I do. It was a very traumatic day, and I remember it crystal clear.
How does that affect your life now?
So for the longest time, it was a moment of intense sadness. Mm-hmm. But the further I dug into it, and I do a lot of digging and a lot of trial and error and kind of a mental recalibration, and now I look at it as a moment where I was able to overcome something really hard, because I'm still alive and I made it. Yeah. And I think I learned some lessons from that day. So it affects me positively, but in the negative light is just an intense moment of sadness. Yeah. And I never let it make me a victim, but I definitely let it affect me mentally. Yeah. So
was it when you were 8?
I was 8 years old. Yeah, it was September 1998. Yeah. Where did
they place you? Did you get placed with the family members, or was it someone you didn't know?
It was someone I didn't know at all, and that was the other really hard part. So, just to tell the story a little bit, we were living in Dayton, Nevada, which is close to Carson City, and my dad was living in California. So we had to go to court for the custody battle in California, because that's where it all started. So was it
your parents versus the state?
It was my mom versus my dad for custody. Yeah. Then it ended up being them versus the state. It was kind of a surprise to me. Yeah. But my mom puts me and my brother, who's just a few years older than me, in a kind of the court daycare, and says, "I'll be right back, and then we'll go home, or we'll get some lunch." So she never came back. Yeah. So, excuse me.
No, you're good, bud.
Yeah.
Did she know she wasn't coming back, or was she told after that?
So I believe she was told in the court hearing, at least when I talked to her. Yeah. But yeah, we were transported by the police in the back of a police car to some holding center for kids until they could place them with the family. So yeah, they placed us with the family down in Vallejo, California, which was about, if I remember, it's about an hour into the Bay Area, an hour from Sacramento. And the lady said that she'd be our new mom for the time being, and it was just really confusing. Yeah. And I didn't take it very well. Yeah. So
did an authority figure explain to you what was going on, or did they give you any hope that you see your mom again, or was it?
Yeah, the hope was that they were doing an evaluation on us, and they said it would take a couple days, and then my mom would pick us up at that point, or they'd bring us to our mom. I saw her maybe 2 weeks to a month later. That, to an 8-year-old, it felt like an eternity, and I never really got the exact time frame when I saw her again. But it was definitely there was some space between when I saw my mom at the court to where she visited us in Vallejo, and so the hope was false. I mean, it definitely died quickly.
Yeah. Were you with your brother?
Yeah. So for the first few months we were together.
Oh, you got separated from him too.
So we got separated because I was violent with my foster families. And when I say violent, I was an 8-year-old saying, "Hey, I want to see my mom," and they would say no. So then I would push past them and try to run out of the house, and they would drag me back in the house, and I would push them and try to run back out of the house trying to get to my mom.
Yeah. Were they kind?
Not entirely.
Yeah.
The third home I was in, she was I don't know if she was married or engaged or had a boyfriend. I don't know what the situation was, but the guy would take me behind. He would take me for a drive and take me behind grocery store and threaten to beat me if I wasn't nicer.
Wow.
So, I mean, I imagine I was difficult.
Right.
But that was his method.
Yeah.
So that was his method.
What did you think when he was saying that to you, though?
Well, I was really scared. And I honestly thought that he was going to really hurt me.
Yeah.
He never did. It was all threats and yelling and kind of in my face, just a way to scare me straight, I guess. But that's never worked for me. I've always been kind of a stick to my guns type of guy. So just got me more riled up.
Yeah. Interesting. How long were you in foster care for?
So foster care lasted about 4 months.
Okay.
I could be wrong on the timeline. And then they moved me to group homes where they could actually restrain you and lock you in rooms.
Yeah.
So that was when I was 9. It was my first group home like that.
Okay. And how long were you in group homes for?
All the way until I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
So explain to me what's it like being in a group home? Is it a lockdown facility?
Yeah. Well, in California, there's different levels. I don't remember it precisely, but let's just say there's the low level, which is about like a level 8, I think. And then there's the high level, which is level 14. Mm-hmm. So level 8, you're kind of in just a regular house in the community, and you go to a regular school, but you still have staff members that are on rotating shifts that watch you, and you're with other kids that have family trouble. And then level 14 is where some places have alarms on the floor at night. So the motion sensor alarms, or if you get out of bed, it beeps, or you have to, I need to use the bathroom, in the middle of the night, and they'll turn the alarm off for a sec, which we had fun with that one.
Yeah.
But, and then they could restrain you. There's like 3 different escalation levels of the restraint. They just hold you by the arm, then 2 people hold you, then there's 4, then they throw you against one, then they throw you on the ground. And that's, I believe, level 12 and 13 are allowed to do that and lock you in a room.
Yeah.
So, it just depends on kind of. Of course, I've always been kind of an extreme guy, so I took it to the limit.
Yeah.
And
so did you end up like in a level 14?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 8 or 9, the first place was a level 14, very first.
Oh, geez, right off the bat. Did you ever graduate down?
Yeah. At the first place, they had an off-campus where it was just a regular house. You didn't go to a regular school, but they put me in that place pretty quickly because I kind of mellowed out for a second.
Yeah.
It was just for a second, then they brought me back to the... Yeah, for me, it wasn't a matter of I wanted to act up and be crazy. I just wanted to be home.
Yeah.
Which, as we get deeper into the story, I've concluded that it probably wasn't a good idea for me to be home.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that because of my attachment. So. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking about it, man. It's like, man, how do you at 8 years old just get ripped out of everything, your safety, your shelter, and get stuck in a group home with a whole bunch of other kids, right, that are in the same situation you're in.
Yeah, the first one, I think a few hundred kids were at this place. It was more of I think it was an old hospital or old nunnery converted into a group home in Ukiah, California.
Yeah. When did you end up giving up hope that you were going to be able to go home?
I never did. I was in group homes. They considered me like a runaway risk because I was always running, trying to get back home. So in Ukiah, I slept in the redwood forest at 9 for a few days.
Really?
Just because I wanted to be anywhere but that place. And I was asking people to give me a ride to my mom. And the first lady, well, I ran away multiple times. The first lady, she just took me straight to the police station, as she should have, because what do you do with a 9-year-old? But I don't think I ever gave up hope. I'm pretty persistent.
Yeah. Was your mom ever allowed to come see you? Yeah.
So supervised visits. The only thing is she didn't come a lot.
Yeah.
She moved back to Nevada, so she was far away.
Yeah.
My dad also came for the supervised visits. They were separated at this time. So those were always positive, but really depressing.
Yeah. How come they weren't allowed to get you back?
So my mom, and she tells the story differently, but my mom made allegations against my dad during the custody situation. My dad made allegations or truths about my mom. Some of it added up with some abuse or bruises or stories. They added up, so Child Protective Services got involved, and they never resolved those issues. Right. So we couldn't go back.
So at 17, when you finally got out of it, where'd you go?
So 17, I lived with my brother, and then I got my own place and went to college to study kinesiology because I had gotten my GED right at the end of, right when I turned 17, I got my GED.
Yeah. And
just enrolled directly into college in Roseville, California, or Rockland, California.
Oh, yeah, Rockland.
Yeah.
Nice. What university was it? Or what college?
This was Sierra College.
Sierra College?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem was I didn't have any history of staying any place for longer than, I moved 53 times.
In group homes?
Yeah, group homes, and from foster care to the group homes from the ages of 8 to 17. So
is it all over Northern California?
Northern California, yeah. So as far as San Francisco, Ukiah, and then Sacramento proper. So, no history of remaining in one place. So I never lasted long, even as a young adult.
Did you feel free when you got out, though, at 17?
Yeah, it felt amazing.
Yeah.
Especially because they essentially treated me as an adult, which felt nice. But the world was so foreign.
Yeah.
I guess they could say I was institutionalized from a very young age. So
I think that, when you tell people about this stuff, does it shock them?
Yeah. I don't think people expect it.
Yeah. No, because you actually seem very put together and mild-mannered. You feel, all the interactions that we've had, they're highly intelligent and, you're obviously a success story coming out of this situation you're in, but I imagine it breaks a lot of people. A lot of kids just get broken and then they end up, getting, I'm sure, heavily into drugs and rebellious activities just because they're like, screw this, you've taken my freedom away, you've taken my parents away, and then I give it back to you, basically, right?
Absolutely. It's like there's really nothing to lose. There's it's like a mindset in some people, and I'm guilty of having this. It's like, well, just in this group home and have nothing to lose, and we hear all these stories of people doing all this fun, quote, fun stuff that we think is fun. So it's a kind of an easy trap to fall into, especially when you don't have strong role models or educated people, because, there's various types of mindsets. And sadly, most of those places, the mindset's very poor. Yeah. But poor mindsets are just so false. The world is just such a open, optimistic, opportunistic place. I'm sure this, and most people you chat with, it's like with hard work and the right goals and metrics and focus, you could make anything happen.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
But they don't teach you that.
No, I bet. I mean, when you left the group home, where did you think your life was going to go?
So I thought I was going to be a sports doctor. That's why I studied kinesiology.
Nice.
And I was going to go be the guy that ran out on the field and help the injured player. Or,
Yeah.
So that's where I thought I was going to go.
Nice.
And I thought I was going to be successful and drive a nice car and all the things that you think success is.
Yeah.
Have a cool house and the hot girlfriend or wife or whatever.
Yeah.
And and it was going to be pretty instant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
make it happen real quick.
The school thing.
Yeah.
So
did you finish school?
No, I moved around colleges for a while from 17 to 19 and never really finished anything. And I went back later, a few years after. So when I was 23 or so, but I still haven't finished school. That's a fun story I'm sure we'll dig into.
Yeah. So let me ask you another couple of questions about the group home, just because I find it fascinating. Like I grew up in a home, where my parents told me they loved me a lot, and they, they were there. I was coming home to home cooked meals, and even though I was doing stupid kid stuff as well, probably at a totally different level. But were you able to replicate that with friends inside group homes, or did you just go without for years and years without feeling like the safety and the love in a home?
Yeah, there was no safety, no love, and really hard to make friends.
Yeah.
Because we moved a lot. So I think I had some attachments and, they were broken up pretty quickly. In the higher level group homes, guys that come from juvenile hall are court ordered there. So you get guys that are planning and scheming crimes within the group home. So yeah, the level of people you interact with it wasn't a friend circle.
Yeah.
So I have 0 people that I met in those group homes that I talk to today.
Yeah.
Really hard to come by friends.
Did you find any kindness?
Yeah. So I think, I don't know if it was Big Brother or some of those groups were able to come into the group homes and mentor the guys that were most troubled.
Yeah.
Or struggled the most. And I had a lot of mentors. And I actually still think about some of that kindness or things they said. Even, they had budget. They were able to take you and drive you out of the group home and go to the store and buy you stuff. And, sometimes they get me those little finger skateboards and the ramps.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my thing at a young age. It was fun. And they'd buy little toy cars. But those were always little sparks of happiness for me.
Yeah.
But I was so tunnel vision on getting back to my mom that the sparks didn't last long.
Did the environment just keep on clamping down on that one goal? I mean, is that how you were able to keep the fortitude of just I'm going home to my mom? It's just the environment just clamps you down to that?
Yeah, I was always tunnel vision to that one goal. So it didn't matter what happened or what day it was.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be somewhere else with someone else. In this case, my mom. Yeah, that's all I thought about.
Yeah, I could see that. So when you got out at 17 and started going to college, then with your brother, did you see your mom a lot?
So she moved to Utah, and she kind of gave up hope. And what's the funny thing is we never had a relationship after I got out, and really interesting. It's almost like she tries to get as far away from me as possible. She lives in Florida now.
Oh, does she?
And I'm right here in Utah.
Did you come to Utah because of her?
Yeah, I did. So my mom and 2 brothers lived in Utah, so that's why I came out here.
Yeah.
And we never developed a relationship. It was just too much pain.
Yeah. Is there a lot of guilt on her side? And did you?
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt, and it's the way she handles the guilt. We just, and when I say a lot of guilt, she guilts me. Let's back up for a second. So my mom believes that she tried really hard to get me back, and it just never worked, and that she's the victim, and that we should have been with her, and that she should still be seen as the hero. But obviously that's not my story that I felt. So it's just really hard to communicate the pain I felt with her, because it immediately goes into to how she feels.
When did you realize that?
I realized that, so I started noticing it on the visits when I was 12, 13, 14, that it was mostly a guilt trip when we talked. And it really just hit home when I was 18, 19.
Yeah. So when you were 17, had she already moved to Utah?
Yeah.
How old were you when you came to Utah?
I was almost 19, so I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever live with her?
Briefly, for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Mostly it was like a visit.
Right. So, you kind of stayed there for a minute. Oh, wow. So how do you interact with her now?
Well, now we do phone calls and FaceTime sometimes. I'd say once or twice a month.
Yeah.
She tries to reach out to me a lot, but it's kind of, I don't really take the time to talk to her now. There's still a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing something to deal with that?
Yeah. So I have someone that I talk to about just how I'm feeling, and I got into meditation and, just trying to be the master of my mind and thoughts for quite a long time. Yeah. And, I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but I definitely can have a lot more self-control than I used to. I could remain in a place and focus on goals. Yeah. And I'd say meditation and talking about it, or at least trying to get perspective. So therapy is one of my methods, and I look at a therapist as your brain consultant. It's somebody that you bring into your life to give you a different paradigm. Yeah. So I found that really helpful. It reminded me that it's going to be okay. Yeah. That, that some of the things I experience are normal and just going to work through them. So. Right.
Yeah, some things, right?
Yeah. Some things.
I mean, your upbringing's extremely unique.
Yeah.
And you're not married yet, right?
So I was married.
Oh, were you married?
Yeah. Not married anymore. Yeah. Just married to work, no girlfriend. So.
Did you have any kids?
Yeah. So I have a boy and a girl. Amazing. Okay. I get to spend time with them a lot. Great. We're pretty good at getting better at co-parenting. So
do you think that the relationship with your mom and dad right now, how does that affect with your kids?
I feel like I have a lot more empathy when it comes to, so there's two sides of it. My son is me. He's persistent, he's stubborn, and he asks why about everything, and he doesn't listen. Yeah. And he's difficult, but I'm excited because those are very successful traits. They could be developed into successful traits. So instead of getting upset with him or doing some of the things my parents did to handle me being difficult, I just take a step back. And I'm not perfect at it, but I try to help him develop. Yeah. And just think, what did I need as a kid, or what do I need now? Or what would have helped me feel loved and supported with my unique kind of self. So that's how I take the approach to my son.
Yeah. How old is he?
He's almost 7.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And your daughter, how old is she?
She's 3 months.
Oh, she's way young.
Yeah, she's a little baby. So with her, it's easy. I just cuddle with her and change her diapers and
kiss on her and stuff.
Yeah, kiss on her and give her milk. So and she's happy.
Nice. So then you recently divorced.
Yeah. So we divorced. We divorced about 4.5 years ago, and then I've always wanted a family, and so I asked her, maybe begged her, I don't know, if we could try it again, and we did. Yeah. And it didn't work out. So we decided to go our separate ways. And I'd say for me, I think I just struggle being in personal relationships. I'm good at the business relationships, but so I'd say she's a lot better than me.
Yeah.
And I still need to work on that area. Big time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, an outsider's perspective, obviously, right, can understand it, you know.
Yeah.
You were the steward of your own emotions for a long time, you know, and then when you're in relationships, you know, I don't know if responsible is the right word, you know, but you take on other people's emotions and you got to deal with all of that. At the same time, you know, you're being very successful in the business world, and it's hard. You know, I think it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, my parents' generation is interesting, or our parents' generation is interesting, because they look at divorce with such like shame, I guess is probably the best way to put it, right?
Right.
And I mean, nowadays, right, if someone tells you the divorce, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, what happened? You know, like it's just like this, a lot more normalized conversation, right? And you're like, oh, you know, even what you're saying, right? It's like, yeah, it didn't work. I mean, parts of it was my fault, you know, and then we tried it again, it just didn't work. So we're just trying to do what's best for everybody involved now.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of admiration in that, you know, instead of, I don't know, hating each other, staying together for the kids or whatever, right? You know,
absolutely.
It's an interesting dynamic. And then, you know, where you come, when you're dating someone, right, how much weight do they put into the way that you grew up?
I feel like I get some, they definitely, they take it into consideration, and they're a little more forgiving.
Yeah.
When I'm not the best at showing empathy, or for me, my biggest thing in relationships, and this is where the struggle is I've had so much adversity in my life that pain doesn't affect me. I mean, we could have a really horrible day, and it's like, well, I've had worse days,
right?
So I don't feel shitty.
Yeah. But
that's not the case for ex-wife or, you know, girlfriends. They, you know, or anybody, normal people, whatever normal is, get frustrated about normal stuff. It's harder for me to get frustrated about that stuff.
Yeah.
And not everybody's in a box. Not everybody's like that. But in my experience in relationships is there's frustration. I just kind of, I tend to blow it off. I'm like, well, cool. Okay. What are we having for dinner?
Right.
Which is wrong and not okay, but it's hard for me.
Well, is it wrong? Is it wrong to have that attitude?
You know, and I'm glad you're challenging that. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's a way to evolve above the bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's why I consider myself lucky.
Yeah.
I had so much adversity that bullshit doesn't affect me. Some does. But so I look at that as kind of a superpower. My upbringing gave me a superpower.
Yeah.
And in business and in growing businesses and the stress, and that's a needed skill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I think it's a skill that leaders would pay a lot of money to develop. You know, tunnel vision, staying on task, which you obviously develop that. And then, just like not getting swayed by every blow of the wind.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, that's just not that big a deal, man. You know, like we're normal people. I like, right. I like how you say that, you know, because what is normal? I totally agree. But it's like, why are you getting all upset about this? You know, like there are so many other things that could happen. Let's just stay on track. Right. And I kind of get that feeling. It's like part of being focused is just not giving into like insignificant shit.
Absolutely. Because there's so much stuff to dwell on. We could dwell on, especially in a business, we could dwell on, you get it. But we need to focus on the right things.
Yeah. And
sometimes the right things mean we have to ignore some pain. And we're not ignoring it because we don't care about it. Maybe sometimes we don't care about it, but we're ignoring it because we're trying to rise above it and get to the bigger vision. Yeah. And, one of my favorite things to do or guide people through. Yeah. Or say, it's going to be okay. Let's focus on this and that will go away. I promise. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I have people ask me, you know, like my wife sometimes would be like, oh, I feel like you're really stressed. And I'm just like, I'm not stressed. like I've been stressed, like, but then I kind of go in my world and I'm like, Well, I can see why some people would get really stressed with a lot of these things, you know, because a lot of the stuff that I just do all day is just make decisions, right?
Right.
Someone brings me something, that, you know, and I've seen people where like, and some of those decisions are big, you know, do we keep this person?
Yeah.
You know, do we need to hire this person? You know, where are we going to allocate these funds? What are we going to do for this? Is this a, you know, when we look at the private equity stuff, right? This is a $15 million deal. Do we want to do this? And it's like, yeah, let's do this one. You know,
Yeah.
All right, no, I don't like that one. You know, and it's like decision-making comes so quickly for me, but I think other people would be like, oh my gosh, we've got to take $15 million and put into this deal. And what if it doesn't work? And, you know, they start going down the path of all the what ifs. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, we know these 7 things. Yeah. They all lead to success. You know, the probability on this thing without even diving into it's probably 65, 75%. So let's figure out if it's actually more like 90.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind of the attitude I take towards things, right? And it's definitely a skill. And that's why when you said, you're like, oh, you know, it's almost like you've had that fight before, right? And you're just like, yeah, I understand your feelings. But really it's like, no, let's plow through this stuff.
Yeah. Appreciate you challenging that. Absolutely agree. But for some reason it's not good for relationships, or at least in my experience. So. Yeah.
Well, gosh, relationships, man, what a minefield.
Right? Yeah. I'm sure anybody could sit in this room, you know, any guy that's married or gal that's married, and it's tough no matter what.
Yeah.
And when I was in couples therapy, I think this guy said it perfect. The partner for you is the one that you could handle conflict with well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so there's going to be conflict.
Yeah. So
how do you handle conflict together? And so that's in the back of my mind. I'm going to save that one.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of my marriage is we've been married for 18 years and we do handle conflict really, really well. You know, we've never gotten into the weeds on almost anything that I can think of. I mean, we have petty, stupid fights sometimes, right? Where I think she's chewing too loud or, you know, whatever. I just, hell, half the time it's just to spice it up a little bit, right? It's like we're too agreeable with each other, you know?
Like, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
But we're also on the same page where it's like, these are the 10 things that we find important. We're not going to get distracted outside these 10 things anymore. You know, this last year, I've really learned for myself that there's things I have to cut out of my life. And sometimes those are people. Sometimes those are things that occupy your time. Like, it's like one of them could be social media. You know, like if you're a person that's just constantly on social media, it's like, dude, your productivity level is garbage.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just a total waste of time. Even down to like watching TV all the time or watching sports all the time. You know, because I have my goals and I'm just going to stay focused on them and I'm not going to let the world distract me.
The world can be very distracting. There's so many things set up to distract you and take your money and take your time.
Yeah.
And I always found that fascinating. So personally, I try not to let things take my money or time unless I want them to, unless it could somehow help me or benefit me.
Yeah. Or
if it has to do with, you know, building a relationship. So those are always important. But yeah, 100%.
So tell me about your kind of like your business world. You know, you stopped doing college. What were kind of some of the jobs you had in your early 20s?
So, yeah, first jobs for me were retail. I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch and Anchor Blue, Bed Bath & Beyond.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to go straight to Abercrombie and Fitch.
Okay.
Have you seen the documentary on them?
I haven't.
Okay, it's on Netflix. You have to watch it. So let me ask you a question. Did you work? Where did you work? What was your job?
So my title was model. And I stood in front of the store, sometimes shirt off, sometimes shirt on.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And my job was to say literally, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
And if I see a pretty girl that looked like she could look nice in the clothes, then I would ask for a number and we'd hire them.
Yeah.
Or we'd go to the lake or wherever and recruit. So.
Were you at the headquarters?
No, so I worked at the Roseville Galleria.
Gosh, I'm going back to the documentary now. So like what you're saying is just cracking me up, right? Because it's like the documentary is basically on how they only hire hot people. Their definition of hot people, right? But who, like the owner or like the CEO or whoever, right? Was it a publicly traded company when you were with them, or was it private?
You know, I don't remember at that time. I wasn't focused on that, but
yeah. You know, you got to watch the documentary and blow your mind.
Now. So the hot people thing's funny. So they said when you apply and you go to the interview, wear Abercrombie and Fitch clothes. Yeah. But I was 18, and I couldn't afford Abercrombie and Fitch because I didn't have parents or anybody to buy for me. Yeah. So I got lookalike clothes at Walmart. So the only thing I did buy is I bought an Abercrombie and Fitch shirt, and then I got lookalike like the cargo shorts, and I wore flip flops. Yeah. And they hired me. And I'm like, well, good. Walmart had my back, and I was able to make out okay. But and then eventually they require you to wear the clothes in the store. So pretty much your paycheck pays for your clothes just to work there.
Oh, really?
So,
oh, dude, it's such a funny world. So on the documentary, they had a bunch of like guys and girls that like stocked clothes at night or like were folders in the back. And they're like, yeah, I wasn't pretty enough to be out front. And then you're like, yeah, I was one of the models. I'm like, yes.
I was out front. One more job, the job role is I had to spray the cologne every 20 minutes. The spritzer bottle that was hidden in one of the fake plants. And it was the Fierce, the Abercrombie Fierce.
I remember it.
Yeah, so not a bad gig.
So how long were you there for?
I was there for about 6 months.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude, that's got to go in your like bio somewhere. Yeah. That's freaking funny.
From there, I got recruited by like some underwear model like company. And it was like basically just photographers that like shot your stuff off to different companies and got you gigs. I did that for a little bit. And then I rebelled and got tattoos and said, you know what, I'm moving on.
Oh, you have tattoos?
Yeah.
Where at?
Just chest and rib cage.
Nice. Tons of them?
4, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I'm like, I don't want to
I'll have to check those out later.
Yeah. I wish they were cool.
Oh, man, I don't know. I don't know why I'm geeking out on you just being an Abercrombie model. Mostly because I just saw that stupid thing, and everyone in that documentary is complaining they weren't hot, basically, right?
Really?
Oh yeah, because it's like the evil side, you know. It's only hot people, all this kind of stuff. I was Abercrombie. So when I was in high school, I'm about 8 years older than you, right? And so Abercrombie, it was like on the way up, right? Yeah. Probably like 96, 97, right? Something like that. And so, and I had Abercrombie clothes, and we had the cologne. I was an Aqua di Gio guy.
Oh yeah,
that was my
I still love Aqua
weapon of choice. Yeah,
it's a good one.
And but I mean, Abercrombie was huge. I mean, girls had to wear it. Everyone had to have something. You know, the double polos were huge in like my senior year. They would wear 2 polos and pop the collars, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
I remember that, really preppy and.
Oh, girls would try and steal the big posters, I guess you'd call them. They're more like, you know, the canvases that were pulled of like the guys. So when they changed their campaigns, they take those off and put them in the garbage in the back, and people started just going through all their garbage. So they ended up having to like dispose of them somehow, shred them or burn them or cut them or something like that. But I had friends that had full on, you know, 8x4 posters in their bedrooms that was from Abercrombie and Fitch.
That's amazing.
So, and then we had the song that came out, the LFO song, I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch. I mean, you couldn't escape Abercrombie and Fitch in the late 90s.
Way to take off as a brand. And that's.
Yeah. Oh, no, they hit it out of the friggin' park, I'll tell you that. So after retail, what'd you move into?
So after retail, let's see, I don't often go back. Let's see, thinking about the timeline. So I think I got into weed. So, and this is really interesting, is I always knew that I had skills and I want to do my own thing. And the circle I was around, you know, that's how you make it big in my part of Sacramento. Yeah, is you're the big drug dealer. Yeah, and I was a horrible drug dealer because I didn't last longer than a few days. So I'm one of the worst. Yeah. But yeah, that was my next thing. I said, this is how I'm gonna come up, and didn't work out, thankfully. but yeah, that was my next thing. Didn't really have a real job, I'd say, after that at all, actually. Yeah, at all. That's when I discovered my true entrepreneurial talents.
Yeah.
In my early 20s.
So what was the first entrepreneurial thing that you did?
So it's really funny. My parents were LDS. I didn't grow up LDS, but I reconverted, you can say, in my early days. And I thought I always wanted to be a writer. And this one's really funny, but I wrote a poem. I think it was a good poem. And it was kind of a spiritual poem. And at this point I was living in Utah, and I went door to door trying to sell my framed poem.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my goal was to be a motivational speaker, author, poet. And I thought if I go to door, I could raise some cash and I could use the cash to, I don't know, maybe write a book or actually speak, and people will see this poem. And doing that taught me a lot about rejection and getting laughed at and guys saying, "You're at the wrong fucking house, bro."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, dang. So
did you sell any?
Yeah, I did. I sold like 20.
Nice.
Which was pretty nice. It cost me, so frame and poem and printing, it cost me about $6, and I sold them for $25. So not bad.
Nice. Good margin.
Yeah.
Was it just one day, or did you do it over a couple of days?
I did it over a few weekends. Yeah.
Did you?
I quickly realized there's better paths to make money. But,
yeah.
You always hear about the door-to-door guys. I'm like, door-to-door, that's a way to get to the consumer.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll knock on a door. Probably would have been better off selling alarm systems.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I was a little stubborn. So from there, I did have a couple jobs where I was more of an entrepreneur, where I worked for a company that helped businesses get funded, which turned out to be a crappy company, and I left and exposed the crap. But my position in the company was really positive. I helped people write business plans so they can get funding, or I wrote them for them or helped develop those plans. And I created the whole department because companies need, for some lenders, they need a business plan. It doesn't have to be extreme or difficult, but just some sort of vision or focus on where your company's going and your skills. So I did that for a while. And then from there, that's when I truly branched off into kind of some real cool stuff, some real like solving problems and helping entrepreneurs, handle the pain of business. I'd say that's really my thing, is I like taking business owners' pain away and helping them actually develop and grow. That's what it led into. But for a brief moment, so I went to LDS Business College, and I had a professor, and the first assignment in entrepreneurship class was to find something on KSL or something for free and resell it for a profit. And the lesson was to talk about cost of goods sold and the risk to reward and how that relationship works. Well, I turned that into, I got a warehouse, and I went to KSL and I filled the warehouse up with free stuff. And I actually made really good money selling junk from KSL, but it wasn't junk. I would find businesses that were shutting down and getting rid of all their stuff. And for a business to sell all that stuff is difficult, so they like to give it away. So I would take U-Hauls and just take desks and tables and chairs. One time I got the entire Shiloh Inn. So when Shiloh Inn converted to Holiday Inn, they gave away all their mattresses. That was me. I got them all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and sold those for not a lot.
Yeah.
But I found this guy that refurbished mattresses, and he bought all of them, or almost all of them, from me. So. Oh,
wow. So you're just picking them up and dropping them off?
Yeah, well, I put them in my carport, and I got fined by the HOA like 6 times before I got rid of them. But it was a lot of mattresses. And then the biggest niche was Whirlpool brand washers and dryers, parts interchange. You could put some appliance paint and sell them as sets and deliver them and set them up. Yeah. So that was all free, KSL.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm sure you can still do it.
So did you just re-put the stuff back on KSL to find your customers?
Yeah. Directly back on KSL. So washers and dryers go in the appliance section, make sure they work, test them. All the office furniture, just the furniture section. Yeah. So, and sometimes I could find I could fix things up, but the real money was the bigger items. I can go grab like a nightstand and repaint it, and there's not a lot of money in that to go pick up a nightstand. So every time I go pick something up, I ask myself, can I at least make $500 from this trip?
Yeah.
And it was worth it. So
yeah. So how much money would you make doing that? Like
that was sometimes I'd make a few $1,000s in a day. Sometimes $100.
Yeah.
I didn't really do bookkeeping, but it was enough to travel around and have fun and pay my rent.
Yeah.
At the same time I was doing that, this was when Airbnb was just starting. So I rented my rooms and sometimes my house on Airbnb, and I would sleep in my car or the basement, just anything I could do to kind of take off and get some cash.
Yeah.
So, to me, sleeping anywhere didn't matter because of the places I slept growing up.
Yeah.
So really it's kind of whatever it took.
So when you rented your house out, were you just have it up, right? So if someone books it for 3 nights and you're just in the car for 3 nights and it's not booked, you're in your house?
Car, basement, friend's house. I'd come and make them breakfast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'd meet them because I had people staying at my house from all over the world. I mean, they're because I live by the downtown convention center.
Oh,
it's kind of a hit. So, guys were going to conventions, Australians, Japan, China, Germans, just kind of all over. So I wanted to meet people and chat about life and hear their stories. So I'd make them a little breakfast and talk to them.
What would you make for breakfast?
Simple, eggs, sometimes just cereals, sometimes I'd bring donuts or bagels.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
but I think eggs was the common, an omelet or, something with toast.
So what kind of things did you learn from people?
I learned that the world's bigger than I'd say that's the biggest thing I learned is the world's bigger, and there's a lot of opportunity to expand your mind and to take in other, I'd say, other opportunities or other kind of approaches, other paradigms.
Yeah.
Because I grew up so sheltered in the sense that I didn't see a lot of the world. I mean, you could show me a picture of Paris and I would think it's fake. Like, Paris doesn't exist. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
But it does exist. So there's different ways of thinking, and you can question your thinking and try something differently. And I'd say that was the biggest thing I learned, is they opened my mind.
Yeah. What's the quirkiest thing you learned from somebody?
That Americans can't build houses. So these Germans went to my basement. Yeah. And it's funny. They said, we don't build houses like this in Germany. You guys use wood down here. Yeah. And I found that fascinating,
What do they use, like metal?
Yeah, metal or, stone maybe, or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say that was... that's probably not quirky, but it still makes me laugh.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to tour the place, and then that was the first thing he said. And
kind of shake your head, right? Just like,
yeah, it's like,
whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they built this one.
Yeah, that's how they built this one and all the others. And we'll be okay. Yeah. Hopefully.
So your current entrepreneurial, your current business that you own, I should call it that, right? It's building small homes.
Yeah, small homes, prefab, prefab in general. Right now, majority of what we build is ADUs, tiny homes, go in people's backyards. Yeah. And we build them in wholesale quantities. So, the builder, the marketer will come to us, and we'll build 4 or so at a time. Yeah.
And so the name of the company?
Modules.
For everybody, Modules. Yeah. How long have you been doing it for?
So I've been with Modules for about 7 months. They started about a year and a half ago. So I came in right about the middle of the start, and got just knee deep in tidying everything up and getting ready for growth, because the markets, I mean, a lot of people are saying it, I believe it, tiny homes or just prefab in general is the way of the future. Building in a factory and then putting it on site, getting developments or investors return quicker because we can open up and start collecting rents or, sell quicker. So people are opening their minds to it.
How long does it take to build a tiny home?
So it depends on how custom, but for the most custom, about 7 weeks, and the simplest about 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have investors now that are buying them and like sticking them in a group and renting them?
So we have a lot of projects like that being permitted or in the talks, in the works. So yes, that's going to be our next year, is building for groups.
Yeah. Because they've got that one. Is it Boxable? Is that the one that's out of Vegas?
Yeah, Boxable.
We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, Boxable is the one that had I think the D.R. Horton and the Elon Musk investment.
Yeah.
And they're building out a smart factory to basically put together these little boxes. Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
So how do you view them as a competitor?
Not entirely. Boxable builds completely different than how we build. I mean, we're more custom, but even if we weren't, we're looking to work with investors and developers and build communities. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our biggest focuses. Boxable is looking at the same thing, but in every community, there's diversity, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even in large homes, you have different elevations, and I guess we could just be a different elevation. So we work together. It could be synergistic, if anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. What made you attracted to this world?
Yeah, I love systems, problem solving, efficiencies. These are some of my favorite things. It was really nerdy. I can nerd out on it. Yeah. But so just to, my core business, what I thought my core business was for a while, was I come in and I help companies grow and sell. I was a business broker, and then I thought, business manager, and then sell them, because I don't like selling crappy businesses, and sometimes they just need a little tweaking. So that was my passion for a while, and then modules I feel like it kind of chose me. I mean, you look at all the history and all the things I've gone through and developed, and modules is an opportunity for me to put that all into one company and just explode it and change the way we view building homes or commercial applications. Yeah. So I feel like we chose each other, and I'm just going to roll with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think I asked you this when we went to lunch, but have they done do you guys do cabin stuff yet?
We don't do cabin stuff. We could, but yeah, I guess the idea is we're in a smaller warehouse right now, so we're focused on core clients and similar builds, but we're actually moving in a few months to 100,000 square feet, which is a big jump, and we could develop new lines. When I say lines, it's a group of guys that are focused on similar builds. That way they could be efficient and keep the speed aspect. So that's in our growth plan.
So if someone buys a small home right now, what groundwork has to be done before they get to it, right? Because you got like the pad, septic, water, power, all that kind of stuff.
So you identify the land, and then you put together a concept plan, and that concept plan goes to the city, and they say, no, that's never going to happen, or yeah, we like it, give us more. And then you start developing engineered plans, and you start developing what your community looks like, what your building looks like. So that's a hefty process. From there, once it's approved and you have your permits, that's when you start doing your pad, your concrete pad, your foundation, your septic, your all your utilities, and prepping for the building. So usually right before permits happen, or around the time of permits, we start building. And then it gets shipped to you and craned right on the pad, set up in a day, and you could put a bed in there and sleep there that night.
Yeah, you're off to the races.
Yeah. So no more, waiting 9 months for the stick build.
Yeah.
After.
So what's price per square foot coming out at?
That's a huge question, because some people want the $12,000 sliding glass doors and the huge custom windows and the nice finishes, and not a lot of guys want basic. You know, I'd say basic is going to be more when we start doing the build to rent communities, those be more basic. So that's still being developed, but that's such a wide scale. But typically, and we do wholesale, so we're not direct to consumer. Typically, I think with the permitting process and everything, a company like builders like Modal, Stack, guys like those, they're probably selling to the consumer for about $300,000 for 600 square feet. You know, our wholesale price is enough to help them meet their margins.
Yeah.
But so that's super custom stuff. That's why I like to focus on the developments and the efficiencies in the large quantities, because then we can get our prices down and it'll start penciling for investors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be a big segment, right? Like doing a full neighborhood kind of thing.
Do a full neighborhood. We order everything from China, you know. We keep our margins low. We're there to make investors happy and still keep the quality. So,
what kind of warranties come with these homes?
So for us, we do a 1-year warranty. Everything that was not caused by transportation, or you know, the owner will send a team out there or have a local team fix whatever is wrong. Let's say, for instance, we have a building and we forget to put a cap on the electrical. So we prep for solar, we prep for electrical to get connected, and let's say we forget to put a cap on one of those, and so does the electrician. Then it's definitely our fault, you know, from the water damage that gets in the hole. So we'll go out there and we'll replace floor, replace whatever needs to be repaired. Yeah. And that's actually a growing pain. That was a true story. It happened once. Somewhere a cap forgot to get put on, and I like those stories because you know, it stinks and the customer is not happy, but it's moments like that you're able to strengthen your company. Yeah. You know, from the adversity or the pain or the forgetfulness, whatever it is.
No, that's great. How many employees do you guys have out there?
So mix of contractors, employees, we're sitting at about 30.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you must have multiple trades working on the house at once then.
Yeah. So we have so the building moves from start to finish. You know, there's the framing section, then it moves all the way down the line to the finish section. So every spot that it's in has a strategy to it. You know, for the rough guys, electrician, rough electricity, rough plumbing, all the way down to the finish work.
Do you have to have it inspected before you do sheetrock, or is it? Yeah. So like, is the 4-way inspection the same?
Everything's the same. It's actually a little more intense. So our factory is Intertech certified. Intertech is, you know, one of the, they're in everything. They're the biggest company you've never heard of. I mean, they're stamping computers and they're just all about quality in tiny homes as well. So Intertech approves everything, and they approve our factory and our policies for quality. And then we have, you know, a local inspector do a pre-framing inspection, the 4-way inspection, and then all the way down, all the way to the finish. So everything has to match the plans and look structurally safe and sound and make sense.
Yeah. So I know in general construction, right, like it's hard to get your trades to go in the timeline you need them to go into, right? Do you guys face that, or is your process down to where you kind of know A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
I'd say our process is getting close. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're quick and our quality is top notch. I mean, we find ourselves, if the quality's not there, ripping it up and doing it over. Like that's the stance I have on quality. So trades get along for the most part. Typically, what I'm finding is our timelines are usually off by a week and a half. That's why I say it takes 5.5 weeks and ends up taking 6 to 7.5 weeks, but it can take 5.5 weeks. Yeah. So that's what we're working towards.
And that's got to be one of the most important metrics, right? Because the faster you guys can build a house, the more money you're going to make on that thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got to get it out of the line and get a new one in there. So.
Yeah. So how many homes can you be working on at once?
So in our factory, we could fit currently 7 at once.
Okay.
So.
And the new one, what capacity does that go to?
The new one, the capacity would be 85.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so significantly bigger.
Yeah, and we have the pipeline and demand, and so build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of that, but.
So the people that are buying them, I guess you're wholesaling. So they're not actually financing them, right?
So the people that are buying them are usually taking out HELOCs, or they have cash, and these are the consumers. And then they talk to companies like Modal or like Stack.
Oh yeah.
And then they pay them to kind of develop the whole project for them. So financing through HELOC, ADU financing still isn't. It's so new, but I'm excited when it actually exists. That's when things are going to blow up. Because I think most of these companies have thousands of leads just waiting. They don't have the cash to buy one, so they're waiting for the financing piece.
So are these structures that a normal person can just stick on their property now? So you've got 3/4 of an acre, as long as you get a building permit, right? You can just pour a pad and stick it on?
Pour a pad, stick it on, and do an Airbnb.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Building permits and city code and all that fun stuff. That's the barrier.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. But, you got smart guys figuring out the development process. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Now, when we've talked about this concept, and even when I saw Boxable, I looked at that and just thought, man, dude, you can get half an acre and throw, 5 on there comfortably, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe more. But then it's like, yeah, if you're renting these things out for $150 a night, and you get them in locations where they work well, and that's up to whatever those conditions are. It can actually be really, really profitable.
Really profitable. What I find interesting is let's just talk about Bear Lake. You could have a tiny home at Bear Lake and you could have a big cabin. And the disparity between how much you're going to get per night and you look at the square footage, it's more profitable to have the tiny home rented out than the big house.
Yeah.
And that's what fascinates me. So for investors that want the short-term rental model, it's a great opportunity. I mean, you could even stack these things 4 high. So,
could you?
Yeah. So
how would you get into them up top?
So, build some sort of external staircase with an exit.
Okay.
There's ways to develop it. You could do another unit that's an inside staircase. You could just use the boxes however you want.
Yeah.
4 boxes could be staircase, lobby space, kitchen, community, and fun. And the other 4 can be the living.
If you stack them 4 high, do you have sound problems with people walking around, or? So
these things are pretty well insulated. We haven't stacked them 4 high yet.
Yeah.
So let's figure it out.
Yeah.
But, they're spray foamed, insulated well, and they're built to withstand an earthquake. Because if you think about it, when they're shipped on the back of a truck, they go through an earthquake all the way to the location.
Oh, exactly.
So
yeah.
these things are built tough.
That was going to be one of my questions. Are they shaking trim loose, or is cabinets getting loose on the way to the location? Or are they staying pretty solid?
They're staying solid. Sometimes you'll see shipping cracks on the corner of doors, and that's in the drywall. Mm-hmm. And then you just put some mud and some paint. It's not structural. Right. Structural solid. And we haven't seen cabinet issues, just the shipping cracks.
Yeah.
It's always in the common. It doesn't happen to every unit.
Yeah.
But
do you think there's a way to eliminate those? Or just the name of the game? So
I think they were worse at the beginning. The way they're better now is the way they're wrapped and put on the truck. And I think
they'll just ship flatbed?
Yeah, like low boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the height and the height restrictions. So the cracks, we haven't seen a lot of cracks lately, but it's a small risk.
Yeah.
And it's not detrimental. We're talking about a free patch job.
Oh, right.
It looks pretty again. But yeah, it's definitely almost eliminated with the way we strap it and the tightness of the wrap and everything.
Yeah. No, going 4 high, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Real interesting. Is there building codes that prevent that? Or?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's part of the battle.
Yeah.
If you think about it, hotels and apartment complexes are mostly boxes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's what's always fascinated me. How does it pencil? Is the question. So is it more expensive than stick build or less expensive as we start stacking? I think the real thing that excites me is we could build all the boxes, and right when the pad's done, we could set it on there, and everybody gets paid, 9 months, maybe 9 months faster than investors.
Yeah.
Because it's already renting and operational. So that's the part that fascinates me. The applications on this are just endless, and I'm excited to figure it all out.
What do you do for HVAC on the inside of these?
So these are mini splits.
Okay.
Yeah, they're depending on the demand, 3-ton units, or more than enough to heat and cool.
Are they normally 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
So there's we build studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. The biggest one being close to 600 square feet, the smallest one in the 400s.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. My favorite look is a big unit with 1 bedroom and a huge gathering space.
Yeah.
Opens up to a kitchen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how much bigger than a trailer is it?
So, you're talking shipping container or just
No, I mean like a trailer camper.
So.
Or like a motorhome.
Yeah, so the width we can go to, it depends on the state. So California is 13.3, which is a little bit wider than a trailer. And then here in Utah, we can go 16 feet wide. So pretty roomy.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I guess if you had a big gathering area, you could also just have a pull-out couch or something, right?
Yeah, so pull-out couch, maybe a Murphy bed with that acts as a storage. Yeah. A lot of ways to make it work.
Nice. So how custom can people make these?
So it's kind of like Mercedes, right? I mean, you have your base model, and it's affordable to most. Or you could take this thing all the way to the most decked out. So as long as it's within the box.
Yeah. So
or kind of like the Ford Raptor. You take an F-150, you trick it out, and now it's a Raptor.
Right.
Right. So you have your box, and there's structural limitations on windows, unless you wanted to pay for the metal framing upgrade or So I mean, you could do a glass house if you really wanted to. And it's going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you can go pretty custom. We find it's more rational to go mostly custom on the glass and do some really cool tile inside, some really nice appliances and bathroom fixtures, faucets, sinks, stuff like that.
Yeah. And make it nice, but not make it crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could do a 2, 3, 4-tone paint job. Yeah. Most people do the 2-tone.
Yeah.
But it's just from a factory standpoint, the more custom they go, the harder it is for us to actually make the money we need to make, or we just charge outrageous number for it.
Right.
So
I'm assuming they're on metal roof?
TPO.
What's that?
Yeah, it's it's the rollout, kind of the rubber.
Oh, okay. Like in a commercial building?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Why'd you guys pick that?
It's usually not us picking it. It's the builder and the client. They talk the client into it. So, I mean, we do metal roofs as well.
Yeah.
But the most common is the TPO.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll build in wholesale based on what their architect is. We don't actually put together the architectural plans for the client. On our in-house stuff, it's also TPO as well. So we have in-house plans that we'll build for our clients.
Yeah, kind of the standard.
Because we do commercial stuff. We do soda shacks, coffee shops, juice shacks. And those are our in-house plans.
Do you guys ever build like an igloo looking thing, like a glass one?
No. I've seen them. They're cool.
Yeah. I see them a lot on Instagram.
Those can get purchased in kits.
Yeah.
And then a contractor, somebody will build them. So those are almost better built on site.
Oh, okay.
The kit's just delivered to your backyard, and a contractor will come and build it after. If you want a foundation, the foundation's poured before the kit gets delivered. Yeah. So.
Oh, wild. So in your industry, where do you go for industry knowledge? Do you guys have conferences, or are you guys just so early in it, you're just designing and building?
Yeah. So for us, it was just design, build, go. We got some cool clients and been having a lot of fun. As far as conferences, I think there's a conference coming up in Vegas. That's the Home Builders Convention. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of talks of small homes. So I'm going.
Nice.
We'll see what happens. We'll stir up some trouble and meet some cool people.
Yeah.
But I think the home builders, and this is what I've been hearing and seeing, especially with D.R. Horton's move, is they're interested in the diversity and especially the quick return on investment. of prefab.
Yeah.
So,
well, you look at it too, it's like homes are getting really, really expensive in the United States. And you have a lot of people that aren't married.
yeah.
You know, they're single. And the trend in the United States seems to be that, like, there's going to be more and more single people, you know. So if you got a 1-bedroom tiny house that you're living in, it just lowers your cost of living a lot.
Absolutely.
And you can still be in a nice place in a nice area. I think it's what it's going to boil down to is where are these places, you know? The development needs to be in cool places.
So absolutely. Cool places and cool things to do in the community. So social community. So you're not necessarily living in a tiny home. You're living in a community with a tiny home.
Right.
And maybe you have like a place where you can gather, or like a business resource center where you can go code or do your millennial job.
Yeah.
Or you could, you know, meet and greet. So I think what we've been looking at is how cool can we make these communities?
Yeah. And
how can we make it less about living in a tiny home and more about walking around and
right.
And you know, just a fun place to be. So, I mean, could we put one of these in the middle of nowhere as long as it's cool enough and has like some recreation? Like maybe we have dirt bike trails and razors and cool stuff you could do in hiking, but your community is kind of your hub. And we could change how people go to work. Right now, people are working from home. What if we built the community around working from home? Yeah. And it was a small community, and tech companies can bring their employees there. And instead of having office space, now they have this tiny community. So not only do they have home ownership, but they have a place to work without paying for an expensive office.
Yeah.
So some of the things I've been thinking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a sense of community and stores close. And, you know, there's probably certain cities where the urban development, like, I don't know, I'll just say Detroit, I might be wrong, but, you know, there's some old buildings, you knock those things down and build a really cool community in there. You could almost get government money to
absolutely
revitalize.
We were doing that here in Utah. We're the Other Side Village. The Other Side Village is a homeless community. The land was donated by the state. It's 200 units, and they're about 400 or so square feet.
Yeah.
And they're expected that one to be open summer. I mean, we'll see. We're building a handful of them.
Yeah.
Possibly all of them. I'm not sure yet, but excited to see how that one looks. I think that's going to be a testament of an urban, small community that has restaurant and, you know, little Airbnbs, and there's going to be a homeless kind of rehabilitation aspect. Well, that's the core of the community, is rehabilitating homeless. So
where's that at exactly?
That one is in Glendale, close to Indiana Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be awesome if that model works.
Absolutely. So I think that's one of the most exciting things for me about working with modules and developing modules is that we get to be part of this community that's here in our own, you know, our own town, right?
Yeah.
And seeing what good it could do. And if it can do good, then there's a lot of other cities that need something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I see housing as a major crisis.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of people too. You know, if you believe in, you know, depopulation, not if you believe it or not, but like there's areas that get depopulated and, you know, there's just these massive houses that are just sitting there collecting dust, doing nothing. And you can convert a lot of these properties into more sustainable models with small homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty easily.
It's amazing. Excuse me.
So going to you personally, what's your goals for the next 5 to 10?
Goals the next 5 to 10. So right now I'm heavy on building relationships with investors, landowners, developers. So meeting as many cool, like-minded people as I can to help change the paradigm of, you know, building. So I'd say, well, that's a business goal, and that's kind of consumes my personal life, right?
Yeah.
Which is okay because I enjoy it. Personally, I think balance comes to mind. I think we all can relate. As an entrepreneur, we lose the sense of balance. Well, not everybody does. Some people are amazing, and I admire them. But for me, I'd like to get back to balance. I mean, I'm probably 40 pounds too heavy, and I probably don't eat as healthy as I should most times and get the right sleep or exercise. Yeah. And I think the real testament of success, and I tell myself this, I ask myself, are you successful? And I say, not yet, because I haven't reached the caliber that I want to be. So I like telling myself that I'm not there yet, because when you're not somewhere, you go there. But as soon as you're there, you stay. So I'll probably never be there. The lack of contentness just to continuously better myself. Yeah. So balance comes to mind, and I'd say that's, building those habits is probably a good year project. And I've been working on it, slowly improving, which is powerful. Another personal goal for me is, being a father. I didn't have that, and I don't want anything to distract me from that. I want them to always be my priority. So I constantly remind myself about that. And I'd like to, in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to have a teenager, 2 teenagers, or close to it. And that's a big deal. So helping them prepare for that is a big goal. I don't think anywhere in my goals is like nice cars, big houses, big money. I think that will come and it'll be fun. And if it doesn't come, it'll still be fun. But I love the world, traveling, changing my perspective, meeting people. That's fun to me, being a good dad and getting balance. I think that's going to bring the real happiness. And with that, once I figure it out, I'd love to go back to my childhood dream, which really was a childhood dream for me, and write some cool books, whether fiction or nonfiction, and actually get on a stage and speak to people and talk to people about my story and maybe inspire people, maybe be inspired by people in the audience. I don't know how that would look, but developing that pathway over the next 5 to 10. I imagine business-wise in 10 years, we've already changed the paradigm of building homes and communities. And we have some pretty amazing, you call them tiny home communities or prefab communities out there. Maybe we've even changed the mind of commercial builders, and we're doing bigger units and stitching them together. Yeah. I imagine that's already happened, and just continuing to hone in and develop that future. That's going to be really fun. So, yeah, that
sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. What else in life makes you happy?
I love to read. I love to hike, go outside. I like time to just breathe. So I just recently moved, and I have to put my library back up, but I have a pretty large book collection.
Yeah.
And I love just sitting down, getting into a book, meditating, maybe putting the book on my lap and just closing my eyes and thinking. Over my lifetime, I've been in positions where all I had was my mind, and I had to think a lot. So I find that one of my greatest escapes, and it makes me happy. Spending time with my kids. It's so fun. I recently converted to being a Tesla owner.
Nice.
And I like driving fast. It's fun. Yeah. I ride motorcycles. I used to cycle pedal bikes up the canyons and whatnot, but I converted to motorbikes, and now I'm fatter. But as long as I'm on 2 wheels, I'm happy, and the wind's in my face. I'm not perfect at it, but I speak multiple languages. Yeah. Some weird ones like Arabic and Farsi. And for me, it was more, I like learning languages to learn how people think, because, different languages have different, grammar and different ways of approaching a sentence. And that's how people think. And it's exciting to see how some of the older ancient languages, how that process started. So that brings me happiness to challenge my memory and to learn about people and languages. It's one of my favorite hobbies, actually.
Oh, that's way cool. So how good are you at Arabic?
I'm okay at all of it. I have a friend who's Muslim, and he taught me pronunciation by helping me recite the Quran. Yeah. So I've memorized a few surahs, and so it's fun.
That's way cool. How'd you meet him?
So I was, it was just through kind of friends, and he invited me to do a Ramadan with him. It was just kind of like an invite. I'm like, I guess, that's what you do when you're in a religion. You invite people to do the activity. So I did the Ramadan with him. And during the Ramadan, that's when he taught me grammar and Arabic.
That's the month-long celebration kind of thing, right? Where you don't eat during the day, you only eat at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you eat at that when the sun goes down at that prayer, you do it and you eat. And it was fun. I even learned that even do that process. It's really interesting. There's different levels of commitment to Ramadan. I mean, there's the guys that will just eat a huge feast, and the guys that eat a normal meal, or there are guys that eat a light meal. Oh. I was the huge feast guy.
Yeah. So you only eat once a day on Ramadan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have you eat your big dinner, and then when you wake up, so as long as you could eat up until the first prayer in the morning, so before the sun comes up. So I would have some water and some dates. It's kind of like the morning tradition, or some tea. So,
nice. I bet that was a fun experience. Have you only done it once?
Done it once. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yeah. I would.
Yeah, that's cool. I love cultures like that, especially when you're really sharing them. I get really annoyed with the word cultural appropriation these days, because I'm just like, I feel like this is like a barrier to humans sharing experiences with each other. It's like if you went to the Middle East and they didn't want to share their culture with you because they didn't want you to steal it or something like that.
Interesting.
It's like your life would suck.
Yeah.
If you weren't sharing cultures.
Absolutely.
Be very, very, very vanilla.
I wonder what it would look like. It's almost a scary thought.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah, because I think, whatever culture we have, it's so mixed. I mean, we do Christmas stuff, but where did that even come from? So
yeah, exactly.
Like how do we get all these traditions?
Exactly. Well, my friend, thank you for coming on the podcast. So we've hit about our hour and a half.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild. I thought we just started a couple minutes ago.
It feels close.
Well, I guess I just like talking to you, so.
Yeah. So I asked all my guests, like I kind of told you at the beginning, I need your best 2 minutes of advice. Yeah.
So for me, I talk to the people I talk to. It's like, well, how do you get going and doing something outside the normal paradigm of work, like going to your 9 to 5 or just accepting kind of the status quo of life, and it's interesting. I said this kind of at the beginning. If you really put together some goals or some thoughts and the right metrics and have an idea, if you just start little by little every day and taking chunks away and developing it and learning, you could really just do anything you want. I mean, there's no limitations to what you could achieve. So for me, I just go after things. It's interesting when I think about what I do for work. I do stuff people don't want to do. When you wake up, you don't want to do the stuff I do. Like people, they want the security, sometimes the job that puts them in a box. Well, I'm outside the box always, and I'm doing really hard stuff. I mean, I think I learned this thing when I was younger in college. I think, I don't remember the guy's name, but he says everybody sweeps the floor, and he was working for Bain, and he was an executive or some junior executive, and they told him, okay, when you're done with this paperwork, go sweep the floor. And he's like, why? And the lesson was everybody sweeps the floor here. And I've taken that and I ran with that. It's, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to learn how to sweep the floor. You're going to have to learn how to just execute. Most everybody has a good idea, but people aren't executors. So I say, sweep the floor, do what other people don't want to do, and just execute continuously. Stop talking about it and just go and do it. And you'll be surprised what will happen just from the motion. You'll meet people that help spin you in the right direction, give you advice, maybe give you a contact that's your first client, or a contact that's your partner, and the partner that knows the stuff to get you your first client. And you just continually move in that motion, and then you realize what you're doing is not what you really want to do, but because you were in that motion, you found what you want to do, and then you develop that for a while. And it all starts with execution. So I'd say that's my advice. And be resilient be resilient. You know, there's going to be some pain, but push past it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got pain.
Yeah.
Why cry about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think pain is what makes it separates, that the tolerance for pain separates people that don't make it and people that do. So get tolerant. Go sweep the floor. Go dig holes.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, sweep the floor. That's good. So anyways, thank you very much, man.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.